It's hard to believe that we're in the age of $10 comic books. This week I have two $10 comics to talk about, and we're going to discuss if they're worth your hard-earned cash. Number one, Marvel Age, issue 1000, and we have Devil's Cut, issue 1. Guys, I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you love me helping you make decisions of what comic books to buy, and you also love daily comic book content, you come to the right place. Hit that subscribe button. And here we go, guys. Let's talk about these two comics. Okay, so before we dive into it, the whole reason why I'm doing this review on these two $10 comic books is, one, $10 comics are expensive, and when you have two of them come out in 1 week, you might be only able to afford one, right? So I had people in my comments going, Mike, you need to review Marvel Age 1000, curious on your thoughts on this. I'm like, all right, might be kind of cool, because it's an anthology. I don't usually really like anthology books, but all right, I'll do it. And then I did get some heat when it came to me giving this book an average score because they're like, you got some of the greatest writers on here. This is a new company getting ready to come out. I don't agree with your review, and that's totally fine. Like, guys, I say this all the time. These are my opinions and my opinions only. And if you like a book, that's totally okay, man. Again, I try to guide you in that right direction. At the end of the day, you're the one that's going to have to pull that trigger if you're going to buy that book or not. Now, if you're buying this book for spec purposes, go for it. I mean, there's a whole bunch of new characters, new stories, new company. Go for it. I didn't buy that book for that. I bought it for what it has to offer on the inside. So with that being said, let's get started officially here on the review of these two books. So when we look at Marvel Age 1000, right, and you look at Devil's Cut, both of them here in my hand, they're both pretty much the same size. One book has 88 pages, which is the Devil's Cut book, and this book is a 92-page comic book. So they're both about the same amount pages here for the same price. So the value is there. Now, it's the way these two books were structured that makes the difference for me on why I like a book better than the other, okay? So let's talk about that. When it comes to the Devil's Cut book, this book is loaded with great storytellers in here. And unfortunately, where this book misses the mark, and I feel like it's very important that it makes the mark here, is in its storytelling. And stories have time to breathe. Unfortunately, by the time a story gets going here, it's about 4 or 5 pages in, the story abruptly ends, right? So it's not whether or not really in my eyes per se if a writer in this book can write a story, because most of these writers can. It's just if the story is going to be any good, because like I said, it doesn't have time to breathe. Now, when it comes to the artwork in these stories, again, some of them are hit and miss. They're just different style of stories, and some of them are really, really nice. Like this artwork right here, this story in general about this woman that's falling in love with a dead guy in a coroner's office is insane. I thought that story was really good, and I thought that the artwork was absolutely gorgeous in here, and you just get to see everyone showcase their stuff, which is fine, and it is good. But when it came to a storytelling perspective, I feel like it misses the mark. There's not enough story in each story because it's just not enough, right? And when you're trying to launch a company, you want to see things that you might be interested in just a little bit more, right? That's, again, personally my taste, and that's where I feel like they miss the mark here. I'd rather have seen maybe a few less stories, right, and have more pages. Or what you could have done is you could have done dollar sampler books. Make it 10 or 12 page stories, put them on the comic book racks, and let people choose what they might want to sample, right? I think maybe that would have been more effective. Again, my personal opinion there when it comes to especially a brand new company that is being launched. Again, if you're buying this for spec, then that's on you, right? So let's talk about Marvel Age 1000. Hate the name. I think the name is stupid. It should be called 60 Years of Marvel. I think that would have been much better name for that, right? This book, again, is standard size, 92 pages for the same price point. It's got some great creators on here as well, like Jason Aaron. It's got Mark Waid on here. It does have Dan Slott, Adam Kubert, Ryan Stegman, J. Michael Straczynski. So there's a lot of names to this one that you're familiar with in Marvel as well. Now, when it came to this comic book, I wasn't expecting anything out of it personally, because again, it's an anthology book. It doesn't really mean anything in the future, right? But I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to a company that's established, it makes it much easier to digest these shorter stories than a company that's just getting started here. But this formula here works more in this anthology book than in this one, because their plan here was a longer story but less stories overall. And I read this first before I read this one. So here in this comic book, you get an average of 10 pages per story. The longest story in here was 14 pages. It was an X-Men story by Rainbow Rowell, this story right here. And the shortest story was about, I think, 8 pages or 7 pages. And that was a story at the end of this book that pays a tribute to, I think, Steve Ditko, Stan Lee, and Jack Kirby on them making comics back in the day. And besides that, every other story in here was a 10-page story. And the stories don't really have any impact of what's going on in the future. It's just a tribute to everything that, kind of has happened in 60 years of Marvel, whether it's a original 1939 Human Torch story, a Captain Marvel story, a Spider-Man story, an X-Men story. It was all there for you to enjoy. And these stories had a little bit more room to breathe in them. And by the time you got done with it, you felt like there was a middle, a beginning, and the end, and it touched on an emotional state of maybe your favorite Marvel character. So that's what this book had going for it right from the start, is that, yes, it's been around for 60 years, but at least you were able to digest the stories, and they weren't 3 or 4 page short stories like they have done in the past, which I absolutely hate. The other thing this book has got going for it is just the cool little thing that a lot of us remember from the 70s was those Marvel value stamps. And then they talk about it in the letters page in the back of this comic book about how people got some valuable comic books like Hulk 181 and you find yourself missing that Marvel value stamp. And they said, well, in this issue, we are bringing value stamps back, and they bring back all these different value stamps, which is really awesome. I thought that was kind of cool. Again, paying tribute to that stamp. So when I look at these two books, in many ways, they are different, but if you're looking for value for your money here, I gotta give it to Marvel Age 1000. I mean, yes, they have 60 years of publication under their belts, so people might gravitate to this more. But when you look at the story-wise of what it has to offer, I thought this was better for me. I could be a little bit biased, maybe because it's Marvel. These guys are trying to accomplish something by introducing a new company and things to come. But I just wasn't blown away by many of the stories. Don't get me wrong, a lot of the artwork was good. There's some great creators, and I applaud them for, trying to accomplish a goal here. But it just, for $10, it just wasn't worth, say, my money. And, at the end of the day, when it comes to $10 comic books, I hate that price point altogether. But if I had to choose, I'm going to choose Marvel Age. That's just my thing, man. So I guess that's all I got for you guys. That's just my thought process here when it comes to these two comic books. I may have been rambling on too long when it comes to this stuff, but we're at the age now that we're consistently seeing heavier price tags on comics, and you gotta make selections. And when I look at value for your money, I just feel like you get more value for your money when it comes to the Marvel book. So there you have it, guys. If you love this video, you know what you got to do. I got more content right here for you to check out. This is that Worthy Ones video that I mentioned where I talk about all the new #1 comics that came out for the current comic book week. And as always, guys, keep buying, keep collecting, but most importantly, always read your comics. Guys, I'll see you real soon.